Can I ask Dana a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So, Dana, would you say that Fukushima is part 2 of the above-ground nuclear test in that sense? You said that
it's a nuclear war.
Damage the ecosystem 50%.
It's actually worse, I think.
Yeah.
It's non-stop.
Well, compared to nuclear testing, it's like, when you compare it to nuclear testing, my take on it is equal to about 1,000 nuclear bombs a day, the animosity equivalent going into the environment and the ocean every day. Because like when you put it up against a Chernobyl model of 10 days, and it was 400 Hiroshima bombs worth of the animosity equivalent of it. And so when you use just that model, it's not counting the fuel pools, that's just counting the reactors. So we're not counting what they call a spent fuel pool, which is where they put all the reactors. Of course, you know all of that. But so all reactors are you take one of those rods 10 years after they're used, folks, and then put it in 1 pound of that rod and put it in a theater, and you'll kill everybody there. And you can, in 20 minutes, half an hour, you can drag all the bodies out and do that every 20 minutes or half an hour with a couple hundred people with that same 1 pound. But they call it spent fuel. But how is that spent when they can do something like that, and we don't have anywhere to put it? In fact, if we were to take the waste...
Is it not, Dana, is it not, and Richard, is it not more dangerous after it has been so-called spent?
That's correct. Right. Yeah.
I knew that. I just wanted to ask that as a question.
That was the big worry of the Unit 4 pool that they supposedly have, downloaded, but that was what everybody was worried about because it could collapse, but apparently that's passed, but they still have, I guess it's in dry storage next to the reactor there, but it's still on the dangerous site, just sitting there. So,
well, the building has subsided 32 inches on the north side.
Yeah, the buildings are kind of collapsing. Dana, you mean sorry?
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
Okay. Dana, so, there's a certain amount of radiation going through the groundwater into the ocean every day, plus there's radiation airborne that's just updrafting off the plant. And so you're saying that every day that radiation is equivalent to, I don't know what you said, 1,000 nuclear bombs or something, but it's the number of becquerels that's leaking total, yeah.
Yeah, they tell you about strontium, or they'll tell you about cesium leaking into the ocean. Right. They'll tell you about one of these isotopes, but they don't tell you about the other 1,000 long-lived isotopes. And so once they emit to one, not that we need them to emit to anything, because we watch the detonations. We know rough volumes of what they had there. We know how often they were changing the fuels out in this cycle since they started those places. And we know that the toxicity of the material that they were using was extraordinary. And once again, there was 12,000 kilograms plutonium in reactor 3, but there was also... and I got a number of reports on it originally of up to 1,000 kilograms in each one of the other reactors. Once again, what they tell us, once they tell us you have to multiply it thousands of times, once again, whatever they allude to, you have to deduct from it. It's just, that's all you're really ever going to do with these people. They're not going to tell you the truth. So when you look at Chernobyl and understand really truly what happened there, or you look at the animosity equivalent of the depleted uranium itself, because, like, the chain reaction, right? The chain reaction. It's not running. I'm not talking about so much about the stuff that's running over the fuel rods that had detonated and sunk down into the topsoil that they had there, or that went out into the ocean, even though that's huge, don't get me wrong. It's those chain reactions. They're consuming everything and they're releasing. That's what's doing the numbers. That's what creates all these numbers. That's what happened at Chernobyl. That's why you still can't eat the meat in the UK and Ireland and Scotland, certain parts of it, or drink the milk because of that 10-day releases. This thing hasn't stopped, see?
Yep.
That's why,
yeah,
it's a chain reaction. It's not so much what's running over the spent fuels and everything, or it is, don't get me wrong, that certainly adds up to it. That could be...
There's so many factors. Hold on, we have to take a break. We'll come right back. Richard Wilcox is in Tokyo, and we'll find out more about life in Tokyo now, a city that by all rights should have been, and still should be, according to many, evacuated. A city of 30 million people. Be right back in just a couple. Okay, back with Dana and Richard. Richard's in Tokyo. Richard, with the Abe regime over there, very bellicose, would love to win World War II, even though it's over. What do we got going over there in terms of a government? I mean, is this a government that the people really care about? Are they interested in it? Or are they just, don't bother me, I'm busy?
Yeah, yes to all of the above. It's really disturbing. I heard that 44% of the respondents to a survey agreed with Abe's phony war apology, this mishmash that he comes up with. The thing is, there's a lot of people in the countryside. They have stronger voting because of the districting. I think, not to sound chauvinistic, but I think they're less sophisticated, less educated, and they don't have analytical minds. I mean, they voted in Fukushima. They voted for Abe. They voted for the LDP, which is his party, the Liberal Democratic Party, after Fukushima, and they still voted the LDP back in just because that's what they're used to. They're older folks, a lot of the people in the countryside who have this voting power. So, sure, there are more sophisticated people that don't agree with Abe. They don't agree with the dismantling of the Constitution. They don't want to go to war again. There are older soldiers, too, who have recounted the horrors of the war, and even on television, they've been, there was a guy 100 years old on TV the other day recounting it, but, they wait until he's 100 years old to let him tell his story. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, so Abe claims, we never surrendered, or I've never read the Potsdam Declaration, and it doesn't matter to me, or something like that. It's totally absurd. And it's just part of this bellicose, as you say, agenda to remilitarize Japan, and of course nuclear technology is a part of that. And I'm not. I
think it's a big part of it from what I can see over here. Right. Not only do they already have nuclear weapons, but they want to be public about it.
Well, right. I'm very cautious about. I just let the people who are more penetrating insights, people like Yoichi or Dana, talk about those more difficult subjects, but they certainly could build nuclear weapons. Let's just take a very conservative approach, but there was an interesting article the other day about how the missiles that they would use, that were Japanese-designed missiles, I believe, these would be the missiles that would be used to launch the weapons. They have the highest rate of failure of any of the missiles available. So, that's pretty ridiculous, because Japan was nuked once, and then they nuked themselves, and then...
Well, the story that came out today, the U.S. had plans to drop at least 10 more atomic bombs on Japan to end the war if necessary.
Oh, my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I got the story up.
Holy mackerel. And I just read that the U.S. Department of Energy is planning to build a memorial to the Manhattan Project, with the Parks and Services.
Oh, yeah, might as well build it to Satan himself.
Yeah, that's sick. I mean,
unbelievable.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Yep. Just a quick word on the, we were talking about the restart in Kyushu, which has already happened in the volcano area. But this next one in Niigata, which has, in 2007, there was a big accident there, and there was a big fire because there was a earthquake that just tore up the landscape. I remember seeing the photograph. Actually, the land inside the area of the nuclear plant was disabled, was moved.
I remember that story.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, 2007. And I remember teaching my students, and they were like, huh? I didn't hear about that. Anyway, so that's the same plant, and it's just been plagued with all sorts of problems the whole time, the whole existence. It's run by TEPCO. And so that's the next one that TEPCO wants to restart. And the NRA, originally they seemed pretty objective and hard-headed, but then they were taken over by Abe, pretty much, political pressure. And so now they've done a turnabout, and they're, saying, this is the next one we want to restart. But the thing is that the reactor that they used is the same one that is at Fukushima. And their original idea was, well, we have to figure out what went wrong at Fukushima if we're going to restart any of the same types of reactors. They're called, I'm not good at technical things, really. I'm a political guy.
BWR, boiling water reactors, and
BWRs. Yeah. But the point is, it's the same type of reactor. And the key point is, they said we were going to find out what happened at Fukushima, and then they didn't. They haven't, and they never will. And then they're going to restart. So it's a change of position that's unjustified. And there's one thing: the governor of Niigata is totally against this, and he's fuming angry, I think, about this. So that's a good
for him
thing, but. So those are, so there's still a lot of people that are very skeptical about nuclear power, but there's people in Japan that are brainwashed. The countryside people are more naive, I think, and they have more voting power, so that's a political problem. And so, when you ask that, is Japan, who's running this country? I think it's, ultimately it may be the Rothschilds or somebody like that, but below them there's a lot of different factions of people. Are
you getting any reports, Richard, of the black, we'll call it fungus, on the roadways?
Right.
You still getting that?
I haven't heard about that, and the websites that and I don't go to only mainstream at all. I haven't discovered that, and I do take measurements on my own occasionally just to check out in the drainage ditches and so on. That's something I have a little more time. I'll try to do that this summer to gather a little more data, but can I ask Dana a real quick question?
Go ahead.
Dana, whatever happened to that clown Jay Cullen and his phony Marine Environmental Observation Network and all that stuff? Just because I wrote about that, and I know he represents the phony science going on over there.
He does. He's on tour. He's all over the place, and he rents little tiny buildings, and he doesn't put out any flyers, and he holds speeches in communities. And I got some of these recorded and given to me, sent to me. And what he does is he tells people that a pack of cigarettes is much more dangerous than Fukushima, and he's still denying there's melter reactors down there. But when he's out public on the TV or radios, he admits it, but when he's doing the lectures into the community, he doesn't admit it. So he's out there now. He's out there going full steam, and his job is he's just a PR firm. His job is to go up against organized opposition, to go up against people like us, and they're very good at it. Yeah, they're very good at it. They took down 30 of my videos recently, in a row. But it's the end of the night, so we'll let you go. And, remember that a nuclear weapon, when it goes off, about 5% of it is the fissionable, is what they consider fissionable product released into the environment. Mm-hmm. Where a melter reactor, it's not, because a nuclear explosion lasts a couple of seconds, that whole plume and everything. The Fukushima doesn't stop. And each of those reactors, they just don't stop. They're just constantly cannibalizing, consuming.
How many people, Dana, have you run into who understand the basic rudimentary situation at Fukushima as we try to present it each week?
None. Not a single one.
See, and these are people who make their living on the ocean. They fish. This is really pathetic. Well, they own the powers that be. They own the media, and they've won, at least on the large scale.
I've seen three of them just now go down with 10 dozen beers. So.
All right. So you take care. Take care, Dana. Thank you.
Night, folks. Talk to everybody, and we'll talk next time.
Okay.
I'll be in the port again.
Very good. Okay. Good night.